Hello, hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? I almost didn't start the live stream. We were getting so into good conversations in the live chat. So, right. Want to make sure everything is going well. I was up till midnight writing these most recent articles, and let's make sure everything's kind of set up to have a live stream. If you got too many network connections going on, you can have a problem with the live stream being healthy, but we appear to be healthy. So excellent. Hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? I'll edit out that first bit. Hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? It's great to hang out with you again for another Professor Slots podcast episode and live stream. Today, we're going to be diving into a bit more on two world-leading manufacturers of slot machines that you'll find in my updated articles on International Game Technology PLC, that's a mouthful, also known as IGT, and Scientific Games Corporation. That's coming up. Thank you, Chuck, for letting me know the audio is fine. That's always helpful. That one time I just talked to myself for 5 minutes, and I still remember that. Niels Bohr said that an expert is someone in a narrow field that has made every possible mistake. So I feel like an expert. Hi, my name is John Friedel. Welcome to Professor Slots, a channel that's all about mastering casino slots so you can win your way to success. If you've ever walked into a casino, looked around, and wondered what's going on with slots and more, I can help. Thanks again for joining us today, whether you are listening on the podcast, watching this video later, or here with us on the live stream at noon Eastern Time each Saturday. I'm glad that you're all here. But first, if you're with us during the live stream, make sure you say hello to everyone else in the live stream. Let us know where you're at and where you play slots. I'll check in with the live stream in a little bit. And as always, be sure to ask your slots-related questions. Excuse me. Today's topic is slot machine manufacturers. Because of my engineering master's degree, which if you're watching the video is the top left diploma over or top right diploma over my left shoulder, a couple years ago I thought it would be a fine idea to look at the annual financial reports for slot machine manufacturers. That master's degree is basically a MBA for engineers. And part of what we learned was that annual financial reports filed with the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, must be easy to read, honest, and basically as comprehensive as humanly possible. To them, companies are supposed to talk about risk factors and provide what are called forward-looking statements. Besides that, of course, there are endless tables of lots of financial data. I want to make a connection here for you between, statistical data and playing slots, but you know that statistical data is a good thing, right? You have been, once you found out that some states have return statistics by slot machine denomination, and maybe your state does, and maybe your state doesn't, maybe your state has not got slot machine denomination separated out, but by casino or by region of the state or something, and then, your poor slobs who gamble in states where they don't have any return statistics whatsoever, we have begun to understand that statistics matter, right? You find slot machines that have been, statistically have been winning for months and months, and not to run down the rabbit hole of statistics, we find that attaches itself to casino business practices, and you go out and you find those, and that's part of how you can win. Again, luck is, luck-based slot machines. That's why I don't like online slots. It's just entirely luck-based. But, if you're physically in a land-based casino, then the casino does things like raises the odds on the slot machine near the bar and a bunch of other stuff that I'm talking about now in YouTube videos. So you can take advantage of those common business practices. And that's where skill comes in, because we can all build our skills. Right. So personally, I don't know any slot machine manufacturers. I fantasize about maybe having like a tour of a facility in Italy or Manchester, England. I know it would probably be watching a bunch of people just sitting at a computer designing a game theme, and that these cabinets, some slot jargon here. The slot machines are in these cabinets, and they have monitors. I was just talking to a gentleman who works for a business, and he's looking to help these small Montana stores that can have up to 20 slot machines. It's basically any place with a alcoholic beverages license, and these slot machines. Where do they buy them? They're not a casino. They don't have I want to order 3,000 of them. They're not big business. They're small business. So these small companies don't tend to work with the two companies I'm going to talk about here. Again, as you know, I don't, spoil the details of the articles that I write. I just talk about what didn't make it into the articles, and that's one of the things that didn't make it into the article. There's always something, and it may be another article later. Anyway, we are talking about annual financial reports and some of the stuff that we're going to find in them, and it's not just finance. It's things like forward-looking statements and risk factors, and that's where I found a lot of goodness. So again, personally, I don't know any slot machine manufacturers. I don't know anyone on their executive teams, and I certainly haven't tried contacting any of them to have lengthy discussions on their deepest, most expert thoughts on where the world's gaming industry is headed. But then we don't have to. They're already done it, and besides which, they are legally required to be completely honest. Nice, huh? It's not like they need to be completely honest if we're having drinks at a bar, talking about this stuff. So this is a great resource. Each year, I write articles on IGT and Scientific Games. Those are the two that I picked, the companies that manufacture many of the slot machines you love to play. I figured out I'd write on two companies to get their separate ideas and, at least in my mind, compare them to see how they match up. Now, one of the things I've learned, I've been doing this for about 3 years. This is my third revision, or second revision, third article. And what I didn't do, many people, as you know, some of you know, many people are interested in these bingo-style competition slot machines. And while these companies do make them, it's not kind of their big business. So I thought I would see about adding VGT, which makes bingo-style Class 2 slot machines for tribal casinos, but I haven't started doing that. These are just the ones I have been doing for a few years, and I've begun to notice trends. So each article, just to give you an overview, and please go look at the article because I don't want to pull out too much, hardly anything that's in there. This is meant to be an add-on, more on, right? A lot of these live streams are going to, the title of these live streams, I think for a while now, and going into the future will be more on, and then it'll be some things that I've written about elsewhere that I need to sort of extend. So each article starts with a risk factors section and a company overview. After that, I get into talking about each of their business segments. As you may know or suspect, these companies make more than just slot machines. At a high level, they manufacture slot machines, but also sell lottery systems. I mean, like the whole system for a state. They would have contracts with like Pennsylvania, right? That's lucrative, to say the least. And these two different companies will compete because there often isn't, because it's through a state lottery system. It often isn't more than one per state. So if you get the contract, you get the contract. They only last like 2 to 5 years on the contract, so they need to provide the whole system, everything from network connection to racks, training, extra paper. But they also do casino operating systems, the stuff that the central server, the software that's on the central server, as well as, the software that's on the mobile device that your slot attendant has to know to come to you if your machine is blinking or if you want to hand pay. They also do sports betting apps, and more than sports betting apps. But only in the few places more in the world than the U.S. Where where there's a sports book. Right, and so it's not just the apps; it's also running the whole deal. Then they also have online social games for fun. This is where the money is virtual. You pay, but you don't win. If you win, you play it. You spend it in the game, and you can't take it out of the game. Right? It's for fun. Some of the terminology here I think is important. Another one is online interactive gaming. This is what we usually talk about with online slots. This is real money gambling. Again, only a few states have it, and I'm not a fan. I love to play, but I also love to win, and that's not something that is anything other than luck-based, and that's not good enough for me. But they also have might have a couple other gaming industry-related services. So I see a lot going on in the chat. I want to say hello to Magpie 11 from California and Vegas, and they're a fan of the professor. I had a coworker, a friend, and I used to walk into the room and he would say, "Hi, Professor." And it only took me about 2 years to realize he was making a Gilligan's Island reference. Right. Paula, no promises. Maybe I'll go to London without you. Catherine's here. She's in Portland, Oregon. And Leslie is here. I mentioned her. She's from Oregon. Dave is here. Is from Salem, Oregon. Wow, that's Oregon, folks. And all right, so there's some good conversations going on, but I'll get back to the topic. Talk amongst yourselves. Right. So in each article, I talk a bit about each of these business segments, but try to spend the most amount of time on the slot machine segment. Yesterday, just before midnight, I updated 2 of my articles. I updated 2 articles from 2019 on IGT and Scientific Games using their annual financial reports filed with the SEC earlier this year. So what I was updating was articles I'd written last year using the financial reports from 2018. So this year, 2020, their reports came out earlier in the year, and we'll talk about that because that's important. These are my 2020 articles, 2 articles on the financial reports filed very early this year about what happened in 2019. So be aware of that, and we'll talk about how we could do better and why I chose not to put some of that into the article. Anyway, the timing is important here. Scientific Games filed their 10K. That's the type of form they need to file as a U.S.-based company. They filed it in mid-February, while IGT filed theirs in early March. Do you see the time difference and why it matters? When did COVID-19 start to become widespread news? Scientific Games report doesn't mention the coronavirus because news of the virus wasn't yet widespread. There wasn't much news. There was something happening, and it's also a U.S.-based company, so there's nothing in the report. The IGT report does mention the virus, but only in terms of risk factors. Again, this is very early in what happened this year. I thought IGT did well with their risk description, given the virus not yet being identified as a global pandemic. As a risk factor, they speculated it would become widespread, and some of the effects that may occur. But of course, it hadn't happened yet, and it was all hypothetical. I'm using IGT as an example here for the value of these reports. It may seem like pages and pages of detailed risk factors is all a bit much. I know I had to group them together into a top 10 list of those risk factors, which would most likely affect slots enthusiasts. But consider IGT's treatment of a risk factor like the early stages of COVID-19. Their paragraphs-long descriptions of this risk to the gaming industry was brilliant. Or I should say IGT's, since Scientific Games didn't have mention it. But IGT, especially given how little they had to work with at the time. My point is they did that with every perceived risk to the world's gaming industry. They do that every year for every risk, and try to prioritize them as far as, will this matter and what might happen and what effect might it have. These reports are not meant to be forecasting. They're meant to help investors understand that company's place, their market share, and where they are at in the company, and also some of the risk factors involved. But they're not there to forecast, which is, well, if you're into finance, it's a difference. There's something in the live chat. Who's going to tell John? Okay. Should take an entourage to England with him. Let's put that off right now. I'm fairly certain that we can't do it. I haven't been going through the live chat as detailed as I'll catch up with it in a little bit. But is Larry from the UK here? Because, maybe he'll put us up. You guys are instigators, you know that? I miss Terry, my old coworker. He's an instigator too. Right, so take a look at these annual reports sometimes, because I do it yearly. I've begun to notice trends. For instance, IGT is twice as large as Scientific Games. Okay? Total assets. Total assets. But IGT has been slowly shrinking these last 2 years, while Scientific Games has been growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, these are billion-dollar companies, $8 billion, $2 billion, $1.7 billion. It's still billion-dollar companies. Only this last year has IGT stopped shrinking. The year, or rather last year, since these reports are about what happened financially last year, IGT has held steady, which is great to see. Last year, from the 2018 report, Scientific Games grew 2% in its market share compared to IGT. And this year, from their 2019 report, SGC grew to 4% of market share compared to IGT. Well done, Scientific Games. These people are working hard. These companies are working hard. The people in these companies are working hard to grow, to meet player appeal, to do the necessary research to be successful. One of the risk factors clearly stated is that they may fail several risk factors, that they may fail at doing some of those things. And we talk about the player appeal, new machines, ones by the door, all that. These are where those machines are coming from. But the articles are there for you to read, and I don't need to go over them in detail here. And I hope you have, and I do hope to have videos out on them on YouTube in a few days, possibly as soon as tomorrow. I'll have to see how popular this sort. I'm building my YouTube presence. I've been online for a while and growing. My website, my podcast, but YouTube was never fully utilized for a couple of years there. I was just putting up a few videos and, nothing live or anything like that. But I've been live since before Thanksgiving 2019, weekly. Haven't missed a week. Cross your fingers, right? And because of that, I'm growing, and because of things I'm learning from companies who are helping me understand how to make the most of a YouTube presence, I'm growing by leaps and bounds. It's just, which is good, and still a long way to go. I've heard. So I need to figure out, this is how it works, right? YouTube's great. It tells you lots of statistics, and I will have to take a look at the statistics for statistics. Again, I'm a fan. YouTube provides statistics on the videos, and we'll have to see if you find this sort of thing interesting. I know some of you do. Some of you are asking me, some of you love this sort of thing. Some of you ask me for advice on purchasing stock in these companies. But I'll put out these videos this year and see if there's an interest. If so, I'll do them again next year. Actually, I'm kind of excited to see what next year's report. We've only got about 6 months to go before Scientific Games comes out in early February, and then we have to wait, mid-February, and then we wait for early March, shortly thereafter, a couple of weeks after, for IGT. But I'm excited to see what next year's report will show, because I'm not sure, even though I'm not sure how useful it's going to be to slots enthusiasts, right? Next year, the global pandemic is going to dominate both companies' reports because they'll be about this year. When I went over these last reports, one of the things I didn't do, and as you know, this live stream was where I talk about things I didn't do, was go over the quarterly and other financial reports that come out regularly throughout the year. I think if you even go to one of them, IGT, if you go to their webpage, you can go to the investors link, and they have conference calls, conference meetings. I'm sure there's some requirement to get in, appointment or having stock or something. But you can go to their investors section on their company website, and you can sign up to attend conference meetings where they'll go over what's happening very, very recently, shorter than quarters, shorter than 3-month periods, but last month or maybe even last week. My annual reports didn't anticipate a global pandemic, so I typically don't go over these short-term reports, and I didn't this time. But if there was ever a year, might be this year. Certainly, if you own stock in those companies, that's something you want to keep an eye on. I do wonder if I should. Again, I try to focus on things that you find interesting, and I really need to put out the videos and wait a couple of weeks or months and see how popular they are compared to my other videos. Hey, what did you think of Thursday? Came out with winning strategy number 1, my explanation for that, distilling it down to 8 minutes and not talking about the sort of corollaries and if this then that, and if this then that, minor details of it that are in the report are in my article, but not in the video, just making it distinct. It's one of my top performers, and it's only been a day and a half. So I started a weekly series, in case you don't know, a weekly series of on Thursdays for these my 7 winning slot strategies, one after the other. And it may be actually longer than 7 weeks, 7 consecutive weeks, because I have a few others that I didn't number as winning strategies, like winning at riverboat casinos where they don't have central servers yet, and probably won't because they can't wire it up. They can't put wires under the floor because it's not a floor, it's a hull, as I've mentioned before. So there are other things I have about how to win more, but I'm trying to make Thursdays one series after another, and I've got several series I can do. So Thursday's a series, and right now on Thursday I started winning slot strategy number 1: only win immediately, just as described. Who was it? I could not give credit to somebody who was on the live stream last Saturday, where I was talking about only winning only win immediately strategy is actually, I more often call it the 5-pull strategy, right? But that sort of pushes 5 bets, not 3 or 10 like some people like to do. But last week somebody said the funniest thing about just make sure it's not a 500 pull, that you don't do 500 pulls, because that's not the winning strategy. Anyway, I love that phrase and I used it, but I couldn't give credit because I don't know who said it. So as I've been discussing with some of you, many casinos rent their slot machines. Certainly all progressives and video slot machines are rented or partially owned by the slot machine manufacturer. They don't sell it to the casino, they rent it, or they have a contract. How do I know this? It says it right there in the annual financial reports. Thank you for the new subscriber. If you have a moment, please subscribe to my channel. I would very much appreciate that. I've been growing by leaps and bounds in terms of watch time, but I'm running a little short on subscribers, mostly because I haven't asked, and I should ask more. I would like to get over 1,000 subscribers. I'm at 537 or something today. I'd like to get over 1,000 because that activates some of the additional features on YouTube, and after that, at least I'll be able to do those things that YouTube provides when I get over 1,000. It may take several months, but I'd prefer it was a little faster, and we're growing fast. We'll see. But if you wouldn't mind, I'm reading books about how to talk. Please subscribe. Thank you. Okay, so I've been talking to some people about these leasing of slot machines and kind of what that might mean right now to the during a global pandemic where all the casinos closed. What happens when some casinos are shutting off some of their slot machines? Not all of them. That's one plan seems to be turn off 1 and 2. Every other one is off. Some places, and I only heard this early on, but I didn't hear it very lately, was 1 and 3 turned off. I'm just wondering if it's 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. Turning off every other one is halving the income for the casino, and meaning that the casino has all slot machines occupied faster than it would be if they just turned off 1 and 3. But in any case, are these machines going to stay there or be permanently returned to the slot machine manufacturer? I suppose it depends on the contract terms, but I don't have access to those. If the casino, these things are leased. So if the casino is paying for slot machines they are not using, and there's a couple of ways they can lease it. The slot machine manufacturers can put in the contract that they get a share of the profits, but there might also be like a lump sum. So it kind of, like I said, it depends on the contract. But if the casino is paying for slot machines they are not using, that are turned off, they'll want to return them to the slot machine manufacturers. There may be contingency statements in these contracts which might allow this during our current worldwide crisis. If not, then that cost gets transferred to the player, right? Depending on contract details, the odds of winning may take quite a while to return to normal, longer than expected, with this sinkhole draining significant casino profits, right? And this is the sort of thing we'd like to figure out. Remember, no one can help someone else be more lucky at winning on slot machines, but slot machines aren't entirely luck-based anymore, meaning we can help each other take advantage of standard casino business practices. That's what my 56, 57 Facebook groups are about, to have conversations between within a state, within a casino on Facebook about what they're seeing. Hey, Friday nights are great. Oh, don't go on a Thursday night. Just these conversations about what other people are seeing. And of course, there's a lot of sharing of wins. It's someone that was asking me earlier today, are we seeing a lot of the 5-pull method taking place in Oklahoma? Am I hearing a lot of that? And I was like, no, man, they're just enthralled with the whole winning strategy number 7, right? So I can't get a word in edgewise on some of the other winning strategies. And so, this is really, these winning strategies is, again, not about luck. It's about what the casinos are doing. What is your casino doing? And if they're not doing it, well, check your other casino and see if they're doing it. Because of the successes I'm seeing in Oklahoma, I think maybe number 7 is dominant. On the other hand, getting a scientist to go into Oklahoma casinos and try to use every winning slot strategy equally, when maybe the first one or the last one or one of them works much better, and just, I'm not going to put my time into winning. I'm going to try the other ones that might not work. I've mentioned this before. Once you find something work, you don't stop doing it unless forced. That's my job, is to go to casino, new to me casino to new to me casino, one after the other, and try them, the ones that I can do that don't require me to be there a week, and see if, what business practice is engaged. But this whole slot machine manufacturer leasing out slot machines to casino, this is the whole gaming industry. This is every casino, and a lot of casinos are shutting off some of their slot machines. So this is something that affects everybody. Now, I understand that we only know of this likely practice regarding contracts between casinos and slot machine manufacturers, and I haven't said anything like aha or eureka, because I haven't yet found a way to take advantage of this. But the key word here is yet. Let's all think about this, and if you come up with anything, let's discuss it. I think it was Chip Barron, and I didn't see his name flash by, that I mentioned early on in the live chat that Chip has taken what he's learned here, and now he goes to the casino on Saturdays around noon to use that stuff, and he's doing quite well at Firekeepers in Michigan. So you might have read that if you're on the live chat, but for those of you on the podcast, and for you, that's right, you on the podcast, I'm talking to you. He's at Firekeepers in Michigan. Chip is in Firekeepers in Michigan, a tribal casino, and he's using this stuff and he's winning. Which we miss him, but good luck. So Chip Barron mentioned a couple months ago in an email that these contracts are business arrangements, and business arrangements can be subsidized by the state and federal governments. Because of this contracts, because these contracts are, I'll be sympathetic and say, because these contracts are hurting casinos, those casinos may be able to get government funds to help compensate for that loss. So maybe they're not being financially hurt. It's an interesting concept, but very difficult to verify and far exceeds my simple MBA-like college degree. So I'm going to jump over to the live chat and find out what our flight plans are to England. Somehow I stepped right into it. Chuck says, let's make it happen. But that was for visiting him in Missouri. He wants, something I'm trying to do is share with you things that are not easy to put down on paper, and also not something I'm going to be able to do on video. Not something I can even do with photographs. Jan knows this. Chuck knows this. Having been part of a consultation where I try to answer specific concerns for your needs at your casinos with what you try to do and improve things. So consider ProfessorSlots.com/consult if you want me to get involved and troubleshoot and try to improve your slots gambling performance at your local casinos. But both Chuck and Jan know that it's very difficult for me to point out there's winning slot machines that the casino is placed in certain locations in the casino, like near the bar, and that's not very specific, just saying near the bar. That's why it's so difficult to write this stuff down. But they sort of like stick out like a sore thumb to my eye because I've been looking for them a long time and found them, and it's a skill. You can develop it. Observation. A lot of people don't even look around the casino. They don't even know these things matter. But I have known they mattered since late 2013, 7 years now, and I've been going to casinos and looking for them. And what do you know? I found them. And I report on my reviews. I need to do more of those, and I want to, that and several other of my slot strategies can be I found in maybe 3 hours walking through a casino. So I have these skills, and Jan has tried to send me pictures saying, okay, in this picture, can you show me which one? And I'm like, I think I need to kind of walk through the room. And Chuck's like, okay, so walk through the room. Missouri's not that far away from Ohio. You can do it, John. Let's see here. So yeah, that's possible, but not soon, given lockdown status and all that. Right. So keep pressing, Chuck. I'm sure we'll make it happen. I hope to make it happen. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. So yes, checking through these, Magpie up to where Magpie 11 joined us, and now Paula says, I'd better not go to England without her. Paula? I'm talking to you, Paula. Do you have a passport? Let me know. Let's see. First step. Let's see, Catherine, right? She's here. And I don't mean to take a lot of time saying hello, but there's some comments in here I got to dig out. Dave says he just got back from Alani, and I know I'm pronouncing that poorly, in Washington, the state of, and got beat up pretty bad. Let's all console Dave. Ouch. And Leslie, who's also in Oregon, or who is in Oregon, doesn't like that place much. It is 2, and 2 is something like 6 O's on it. Too big. Get lost in there. Yeah. Catherine says she's thinking of going to Alani, thought least crowded on Wednesdays. And Catherine says IGT and SG, Scientific Games, are their favorites. That's part of the reason why I picked it. IGT, I forget, is it 400 or 500 versions of Wheel of Fortune? They list their games that they have available as sort of a database on their website. You can't play them, but you can see what they have. And that's only the Wheel of Fortunes that currently exist, not the old ones. And some of it's like $5 denomination machines and, penny machines, but some of it is, this reel or that reel, and isn't amazing the variations that are out there. It's pretty old, came out a long time ago, but since then they keep them current, and they're quite popular and big part of IGT's success. I won't get into, I don't really care about game themes. I'm interested in their development, but I'm not really interested in saying this one or that one is better or you win more, because that's just not how I see slots working. So I won't ask you if your favorite slot machine is IGT or Scientific Games or what is it. Dave is again talking about Alani, pays out way better than Spirit Mountain. Okay, that's something to be said about Alani. Okay, so looks like I'm going with Jan and Paula and Shannon as my entourage to with Chuck, and Dave going to England as an entourage. Great. Don't commit me, man. Don't commit me. Yeah, Catherine's right. Most of Europe won't allow people from the U.S. right now. Yeah. Right. So Leslie. Magpie says, yeah. Some of these winning slot strategies, like I talked about in the video on Thursday for Only Win Immediately, what I call my 5-pull method. It's really obvious. One of the things I don't talk about there was when I first saw it, when I talked to the floor manager, the slot attendant, who told me of a person who in the high limit room won 7 jackpots, they said, after the other, going from one machine to the next machine. This is right after it reopened, and they turned the dial down. We talk about the odds of winning being actually 2. If you win is the first calculation. Second calculation is if you win, how much did you win? And they had set up their machines to win, to offer a taste, but it was a high limit room, and they had it way dialed up. Where minimum you'd win 5,000, but punch it up to 10,000 or 15,000 easy. And I was scared. Honestly, I was worried that if I were to try to do that, it would just throw my whole process out the window. All right, it'd be so disruptive. And I waited months before I went in and tentatively started doing it. And that second odds of winning was lowered tremendously. And then I went back in. I went several times after that and got paid. But when I went back in maybe 6 months later, I saw everybody going from machine to machine in the high limit room. That was just what they did. Word had gotten out. So I didn't invent it. I found it by someone else telling me about it, right? Even though they didn't clearly state it that way, I heard what they said and I interpreted it to understand there was a 5-pull method. And Magpie 11, how many years have you been using that? I would imagine it's probably only been since about 2012 at the latest, at the longest, for those casinos that had central servers. And it's just one of those things people do. So I get the word out. It's also, the one I try to share the most. I've seen it roughly 1 in 3 casinos. Some casinos don't do it, but 1 out of 3, that's pretty high. That's a high number. So there's some things going on here, right? We're talking about this. So Shannon is asking Dave, so 5 pulls don't work for you, Dave? Dave says, very rarely. I play class 2 type, and they are usually busy, so it's hard to jump from one machine to another. Yeah. Yes. See, this is some of the things I left out of the video, but I do leave in the article. It's like, well, for this and this, fine tuning and this fine tuning and this optimizing and this optimizing. So the video is mostly to introduce the idea. But these details matter. Class 2 games have different gaming regulations than Class 3 games. For those of you who don't know, Class 2 games are a type of game where it's competitive. It could be based on bingo. You might even say some like Indiana will call video poker a competitive style. But basically, in North Carolina, we'll call it Class 2, but they're kind of not. They operate under tribal compacts, Class 2. Class 3, Class 2 operates under the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, but they don't require a compact. Class 3 requires a compact, and so they would have some gaming regulations built in that other Class 2 games don't have. Now, if you're in a state that doesn't have a tribal compact, you have Class 3 games. That's mostly Class 3 games. Then you know where your state gaming regulations come from, the state. But when you have one that comes from the compact, then it's different rules. And these rules matter, right? I mean, I say that we talk about standard casino business practices, but I might also say standard state gaming regulations. Where's the rules coming from? All right? The stuff that doesn't have to do with luck. But Shannon says it didn't work. Hard, and Dave says it's hard to jump from machine to machine. And right, 2 machines. Chuck says hasn't been working at 2 of his closest casinos in St. Louis. Yep. And Dave says, and I'm very impatient. I put out a survey in today's email, and it's also on every one of my state by state. And also on Twitter, state-by-state Facebook groups, and on Twitter, asking people if they keep financial records, gambling records. And if you see one of those, please answer it. I thought about asking if people kept just what's needed for IRS, or didn't keep any, or kept some with notes and all this other stuff. And I realized, accountants understand the value of this. I've gotten some praise recently from accountants who are like, I try to explain that you can write off your gas mileage, as your gambling records, and food. You can spend that money on the 3-hour trip to the casino, and you can make a record of it, and you can get that back, assuming you win at W2G or 2. I think it all requires a certain amount of patience. That might be the sticking point. Hanging with Linda is here. Hello. And Joe says, don't forget to like. Subscribes would be awesome as well. Thank you. Right. So trying to see if there's questions I can pull out. Magpie 11 says the 5-pull method works very well for me. Shannon says New York still has not opened commercial casinos. I would love to test the theory more if I could. That day is coming. I can remember, we met every weekend, every Saturday since November last year. And there was a time when, all the casinos had just closed or were closing, and people were going in at the last minute. One more time, and then we went such a long time without anybody going to casinos, and we had low attendance, but nevertheless people were like, wow, do that. But now I guess some of us are seeing it. New York is not open yet, and there's other states that are open, and I just personally I wouldn't go, or if I part of the reason why I am hesitant is because it's such an unusual time. I'm not looking to make a buck. I'm looking to learn, and having just been laid off, I do have health insurance, but getting coronavirus right now would be bad. So just laid off, and knew a month ago. Last day was Friday, and a month ago I started putting a lot of work into Professor Slots. All the things I wanted to do that I had only been doing 40 hours a week are now doing 90 hours a week. And I'm starting to see some results. This is background stuff, things you might not have noticed, probably couldn't even notice, having to do with SEO, search engine optimization, fixing some stuff on the background on my website. Yesterday I had 3 times my normal traffic, and it's been about 2.5 times this last week. So all those efforts are paying off. I'm going to see if I can't make a make a run at being profitable and just trying to give you guys what you want. So you'll see, I've said for a while, you'll see some changes coming, but it should only be improvements. And I'll roll out more stuff as I launch those things. Okay, so Hanging with Linda. I missed that one. What is the 5 pull? I assume only do 5 pulls, then move on. Hanging with Linda. Yes. In fact, I put a video out on it on Thursday. It's my winning strategy number 1, and we were talking about how it's not invented by me. I'm pointing out what I've found other people do, but it's a good one. And in many ways, so the Thursday's video, I also called win only win immediately. You can go through all of the slot machines in a high limit room pretty fast, and then you kind of have to go home. And then there's something else that's mixed in when you read the article that's associated with that on my website. There's something else that's mixed in, which I'm beginning to realize is not necessarily that winning strategy, but one that's sort of synced in with it, but you can separate them out, which is playing an idle slot machine. Sometimes there's a taste on that, and it's sort of a different cause for the taste. When casinos that do this, any slot machine will have a taste when you first sit down, but it'll have a bigger taste if it's been idle. So I'm almost thinking that's like 2, right? Yep, Jan is telling Linda about winning strategy 1 video. Yeah, right, Joe? Joe says, I've noticed most people that jump around are in high limit area. I've seen that too, but watching these people in this Belterra Park and outside of Cincinnati, racetrack with slot machines, watching them kind of like go down the row, it had a different look to it than just jumping around. I recognized the 5 pull method. Yeah, they like. They didn't do necessarily 5 pulls, but they'd do a few. Anyway, I don't see anybody else making videos about it, so I did and put it in a book and talked about it on a podcast and spread the word. And that's what I want to do with that and others. So thank you. Magpie says, sorry you got laid off. Thank you. Once I got past some of the nausea, I have been, well, I don't need to talk about my personal career, but I am looking to, for this be a good thing for me and for you. Thanks, Linda. Enjoy watching it. Chuck says, put a tip jar on your site. Did you make that suggestion before? Because if you go to any of my articles, I think I have like tip the professor sort of button, but I'd prefer to give you something more valuable than what I'm charging, and I'm working on having some of those things. Right. Doug is here. Hey, Doug. Any tips in Lake Tahoe, Nevada? My tip is this: go to my article on Wendover, West Wendover. Which one's on the Utah side of the border, Catherine knows, and which one's on the Nevada side of the border. I have an article, and take a look, and there's also another one about visiting Las Vegas, but both matter because it's taking advantage of the statistics that are available, the fantastic statistics that are available from the Nevada Gaming Commission. And the way you want to do this, and I need to write all this stuff down and make a video of it, but since you're here, I'll tell you. Go look at those statistics and, see which one last month had the best return. Cut out the $100 machines that have a return statistics of 120% or something because somebody just won the mega bucks, and you don't, that's an invalid outlier. Toss that to the side. But see what was high last month. Now, those of you who know statistics, if any of you know statistics, know that statistics don't work that way. And if you find a high number last month and the month before for a particular denomination, which Nevada provides, slot machine at a particular, city, county. They separated everything up by counties, and some counties are broken up into sections, like downtown is separate from the Strip and that sort of thing. If you go to that county and you look for that slot machine denomination, which has been high for a couple of months, that's less likely to be statistics. That's less likely to be luck, but rather indicates a casino business practice where they make those machines have better odds. They've set them that way, right? I can't help you may be more lucky, but I can point out stuff about consistently being high means that maybe next month it would be. So go to Nevada Gaming Commission, go to the Lake Tahoe, whatever the name of that county is. I think there's, if I remember correctly, there's a North Shore and a South Shore. So you might need to figure out which one you're talking about. It doesn't go casino by casino. It goes by kind of like groupings. And so you need to figure out where your casino is at in those statistics. And right. So, and see what those have to say. Now, others here might, for instance, join the Nevada Slots Enthusiasts Facebook group, professorslots.com/FBNV, and ask, boots on the ground. There's plenty of people in that group who may be, mostly looks like Nevada, Las Vegas people, but they might know something about Lake Tahoe. Ask the question. People like talking here. Well, yesterday I went to so-and-so place, and, Alani and, Spirit Mountain and all that. I made these Facebook groups for this reason. Ask a local. Sharon, yeah, it is a strange time. I hope to make this the best thing that ever happened to me, though. Positive. Once I, finish throwing up. Sorry. Hopefully it's in the rearview mirror pretty soon. I wasn't going to tell you guys, but it helps a little bit. So Leslie from Oregon says, I have noticed on one casino that I go to have brought in a bunch of new machines. Would they replace the same type of machines in place of the old ones, same locations at bars, cash cage? Well, one of the things that I think might be happening, and I'd love to know more, is those new machines may be under a new contract. More that's kind of got the pandemic written in, right? They're always expiring. The contracts are not for very long, usually, because like the ones in the front of the door, they need to know how player appeal is, and they need to know the ones near the opening if they're going to stick around. And so they don't have to be short term. They have to perform and they meet the requirements. But if they're getting new ones in, you can bet that there are lawyers working on having better contracts, because I hope they had contingency plans for acts of God, but now you can bet these new contracts will be very specific to, and if we all shut down again, what do we do? They have wording in there. So it's hard to say. A new contract. Check. So you're in Oregon. Check your state gaming requirements. See if there's a theoretical payout limit. I don't remember offhand. And if the theoretical payout limit is a maximum or minimum or both, usually minimum if they have one, sometimes also a maximum as well as a minimum, and see if the wording is clear about over the lifetime of the game or per play or something like that. And I'm trying to get through all these articles and make sure I look for that sort of thing. You might have to look it up in the state or the lottery system to see if it says that. Because if it's over the lifetime of the game, then how long is that slot machine going to be there? And you've got some flexibility. So does the casino. But if it's per play, then it's a lot more restrictive. And so that's kind of the answer to your question. I don't really have a short answer for you. Look it up. Let's see, hanging with Linda. Can you add PayPal to your links? People can send you dollars there. It should be an option on my PayPal is a pay option that I have available. Yeah, thanks, Doug. Yeah, yeah. My old employer's loss is our gain. Thank you. Catherine says most of Wendover's business was with charter flight stay junkets, and they are canceled for all of 2020. Yowza. Yeah, I wonder what some of these small towns that all their income is based on. This is, how they're doing. Let's get through the last questions. You're welcome, Doug. Why are the casinos short on change? Shouldn't they better prepared for coin shortages? I don't know. Is that even a thing? I mean, certainly there was a time when we had quarters and dollar coins, but we're not even using coins anymore. And Chuck found the tip jar on my site. Thank you. Anything would help. Got to get through the next few months and get things set up a little bit better. Funnels and whatnot, if you like that sort of thing, if you're an entrepreneur. Okay, thanks for the likes. Thanks for the subscribes. Everybody, please. Okay. Everybody's complaining about the coin shortage. I can't even get into the bank to get a roll of quarters. So I can imagine that's a problem. Just to do laundry occasionally. Okay, so. Thanks, everyone. Watch more of my videos to improve your slots gambling performance. Have fun, be safe, make good choices.